Come on, come and get me. Come and get me. Come and get me. Welcome to the 10 Acre Woods. I'm here outside of Carl's house, but apparently nobody's home. So he must be over with the chickens. Oh, wait a minute. Here he comes. I see him. So Carl is our male goat. He's our stud, right, buddy? And if you've seen some of the other videos, you will have seen that he is quite the character. For example, there he was rubbing his antlers. Hey, bud, right in between there. That's what you like, hey, bud? Oh, there you go. See, he can't quite get back in there. Oh. So goats will eat generally, oh no, I guess it wasn't quite enough. Goats will generally eat from their shoulders up. So they don't do too much grazing on the ground. They will eat kind of on the trees here. So up front, we have quite a bit of brush for him to graze on, and lots on the ground. So we're gonna have to move some of our sheep up front and keep that down, because we don't wanna have to mow, not with mowers anyway. We prefer to do it with our goats and sheep. Okay, Carl. Hey, bud. Bud. So Carl's been up here alone. Hey, bud. No one to bother. Those girls are in the back pen. We keep him up here just to control his breeding habits, because if he could, he would all the time. So we put him back in with the girls in November. Goats have a 5-month gestation period, so that brings them to kidding in March. Now, he's relatively clean, other than a little bit of debris from lying around. And during breeding season, you don't want to get too close to male goats, because what they do is they actually urinate on their goatee, and apparently it is some kind of attractant to the females. I don't know how well it works, because I see the girls running away from him all the time, but he is doing his job. So up here, he likes to just hang out, but he likes to play as well. So whenever I come back here, I play with him. And goats play by headbutting and showing who's dominant. So I do this. Hey? It's kind of like playing with a dog. Playing fetch. It's a little different with a goat. Hey, you gonna get me? You gonna get me, bud? Come on. Come on. Come on. Come and get me. Come and get me. Come and get me. Now you gonna rear up? Are you gonna rear up? Oh, you're gonna. Hey. Oh. Come on. Come on. You gonna make your move? There it is. There it is. So he enjoys playing. So I try to come back here every once in a while, or come up here and play with him a little bit, because he really enjoys that, don't you, bud? So then you don't feel like you're left out. This is just kind of a push-a-war. Who's gonna win, eh, Carl? I say I'm gonna win. Because I always win. Yes, I always win. So it's also getting time for them to get their hoofs clipped. Now, I did do a video last year, I believe it was, last spring. Their hoofs aren't too bad. So his are starting to get some grow-overs on them. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to go through all the goats and give them a trimming. But if you haven't seen that video on the trimming, I'll put a link up top here, so you can click on that and see how we trim the hoofs. I made up a little wood hoof with some business cards as the nails to try to give you a good description, because it's tough to do goats and film them and get the right angle. Hey, you're still gonna push. You're still gonna push, eh? So Carl has, oh, I don't know how much. He's probably got about 1.5 acres up front. And it goes all the way up to the highway and all the way down to the driveway. So the electric fence is running around or along the driveway and then across the side of the property. That's all you need. There's been, I put out a video 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, on how to start a hobby farm. And people have been asking about, you know, how do you house them and how do you keep them around? What do you need for fencing? What do we use for fencing? So we started off actually with chain link fencing that was donated to us. And, and then we went to electric fence. Now electric fence is relatively easy to install. You just have to dig some holes. It's a little bit of grunt work. We actually rented a whole auger a couple years ago. There you go, to do the front. And we got all this front done in one day. So it worked out really well. Picked up poles, put them in the ground, insulators, and ran the wire. And here we go. We have our front pen. So, and he's never gotten out, never been an issue. These chickens here, they roam the property, so they can actually go underneath it without a problem. We just want to keep this one at bay. You almost done? Or are you going to keep on going? So then what we did is in the main area, where the dog run is, you're right on the shin, eh? We have 2x4s and stucco wire and put in the ground with posts. So just to look a little nicer, and more so for the smaller animals, and of course for the dogs not getting out. I'm sure the dogs would appreciate not having an electric fence to deal with. I'm sure they'd only worry about it once, and moving forward they probably wouldn't go near it. Hey? So what they'll often do is they'll rub up against you. Not so much now. Oh, and he likes the camera, so he's gonna probably go check the camera out because he always does that whenever I film him. So they rub up against you to put their scent on to you. Don't fog up my lens, buddy. Just so that they're kind of taking ownership of you. You know, this is my territory and I'm marking you. Don't chew on it. Oh boy. Come on, bud. Come on. Okay, something else that's happening around here, and it's probably happening in a lot of places, I've seen a lot on the news about it, are these guys here, tent caterpillars. So I just noticed this, so we're gonna have to cut this one out and get rid of it. And then we've got some tree knot up here as well. We like to get rid of that as well, just cut it off. We don't want it spreading around to any other areas, and especially these guys here. So there's been quite a few of those tent caterpillars in the area, and we would like to keep our leaves, and I'm sure Carl here would like to keep his. Right, Carl? Because you love your leaves. Well, he loves them so much he rubs up against them. Muscovy ducks. Quite the characters. Drake, if you've been watching before, and his two girls. His two girls came in as a rescue last year because the owners they were concerned about the dogs getting them flying over. And Drake is probably one of the largest ducks you'll find, the male Muscovy, and they can't handle the cold, freezing climates, so we have to put them inside. And of course we saw Tina last week here, and the guineas, the tick patrol, they're out. This here is a buff, and we call him the bodybuilder because that's what he looks like. Looks like just a little bodybuilder, especially when he's running away from you. Chickens having their bath, so they will use dirt to kill any insects that might be lurking in their feathers. Those turkey eggs that I candled, I think it was last week, they ended up just being duds, so they didn't work out. And the other ones that were in there we candled, they weren't fertile. So Fernando is not doing his job. So we may have to bring in a ringer so we can get some young. So he's more of a people bird than he is a bird. Okay, so here we have some chicks. Young chicks hatching out. We don't have the incubator going too much. But these three here, these three amigos came out. So they are, I believe they're Muscovy ducks. They look like Muscovy ducks. Hey, are you a Muscovy duck? I'm pretty sure you guys are, because you're not Pekin, you're not Cayuga. And I'm pretty sure they are Tara hatches stuff out here. Most of the time I don't even know what's going on. So these updates are great for me. And in here you can see there's a couple turkey eggs left. We have some duck eggs there and here. So those are Muscovy duck eggs, and these are Pekin duck eggs. Muscovy eggs will have a slight waxy film on them, so it'll be a little bit darker in color. All right, so let's go out to the barn, shall we? And here we are. It's probably pretty quiet in here, but might as well walk through. And there is Sarge. So what's going on outside right now, the reason why Sarge is inside is because outside we have a goat yoga class that looks like it's just winding down. And of course Barry. Barry! He ignores me. And the pigs over here. Okay, so Sarge, yeah, he is a rooster and he tends to be a little jumpy. Oh, look. Look who came in. Look what the cat drugged in. Carl, this is his cool place. You know, nice cool concrete on the floor. He comes in, he can kind of get away from the heat outside. The sun is pretty hot. It's, what is it? It's about 25 degrees. 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which isn't too bad. It's great, but it's a little humid. And that sun, when that sun comes out. Right, the turkeys last week. So we put them in here, and as you can see, they're not in here anymore. The eggs are in the corner here, and they just didn't sit. So we will have to incubate those. So I don't know what it is with these turkeys. Oh, and there's the buff. I don't know what it is with these turkeys, but they don't want to cooperate. Feed room, I showed you guys that. That's the feed area. I put in the light here so we can actually see what we're doing. All of our feed here. Wheat, oats, barley, and our water system, which is here. So in the wintertime, we have this heat trace that runs on a timer. It's on for 15 minutes, off for half an hour, on for 15 minutes, off for half an hour. So this is now off, and this is just running straight from the hose, straight from the pump. All right, if this scene looks familiar to you, then you probably watched the wild turkey video last fall. They were roosting up here in these trees, and they all gathered over here and flew up from there. So I'll put that link up in the description here, or actually I'll put it in the description and I'll put a card up. So you can see the electric fence is here. It's only a 3-wire system. So the thing with the electric fence is you want to make sure that the 1 wire in question that is going to do most of the work is the one at nose height. So we've got that one here, this one here. We had horses up here, so it's a little higher. Now what happens is when a animal gets electrocuted, shocked, in front of their eyes, then they'll go back. If it's behind their eyes, on the top of their head or the back of their neck, they'll push forward. So you want to put that wire as close to the nose level as possible. And once they do it, they learn. Then they generally just don't even attempt it anymore. This area back here is looking pretty good. Grass is all coming up. This is where the horses were, but we just don't have the pasture for the horses. And this was their little lean-to, which you can see I've still got to repair it here. They kind of took out a couple studs of framing, but it's currently not being used, so we'll have to repair that. And then these are just some spring gates. And goes along there. So the property line is actually right there. You can see those poles, and the electric fence just goes on the temporary poles all the way down to the end. So that's really all you need. Pick up some temporary poles and run your line. So those of you from Manitoba or visiting Manitoba, we are actually doing fairs. We're on the road. So this last weekend we were in Richer, Manitoba for a company barbecue. Went and set up some animals there. We are in Tyndall next Saturday or Sunday. The weekend after that, we are in Blumenort. And then for Canada Day, for Canada's 150th anniversary, we are downtown Winnipeg, Osborne Street Festival. So I believe we're set up. I have to go down and look at the particulars, but it looks like we're set up at the community club, the Osborne Community Club, probably in the backfield area. I hope so, because the community club's pretty close to the highway, and I wouldn't want a little one getting away. That part's not closed. But anyway, if you're in the area over the next, if you're in the city, come out and see us. And if you're visiting, well, have a look at our calendar at nola.mb.ca, and you can go click on the 10 Acre Woods, click on the events tab, and you'll see our whole schedule. So I've had a couple people ask in the comments about how many dogs I have. Well, currently I have 3 dogs. And here is one of them. Little Maggie is a West Highland White Terrier. She's the oldest, and Toby, which is the male, is right there. And Atlas is right there. He's a Bernese Mountain Dog. So this area is their dog run. Now, as I was mentioning, here is the type of fencing. It's just poles that are in, and then we put this stucco wire, which works really well. Somebody asked, why don't we use chicken wire? Well, chicken wire is thinner, and it can break off easier. The goats rub up against this, so they would break the thinner chicken wire. And this is just more durable. So this was put in just a couple weeks ago, and then we close off the end by putting this this on here on top of the stucco wire, and we put that down there because it's at rubbing height for the goats and sheep. So we have that at that size there. Now coming over here, this is our newer penned area, which I showed a couple weeks ago. You can see all the chicks in here, and there is actually a plastic piece down here that holds out any little ones. And then of course we've got their inside cage area here with a satellite dish on top, which we have to finish. We threw the tarp on just to keep it clean, or keep it dry, sorry. Now, durability. So this fence here was put in probably about 10 years ago. So, and as you can see here, it is in great shape. It's still solid. And then of course here's our Christmas lights, and these are for the crows to keep them away, so that we've had problems with them. And then of course in the back here there is a separate electric energizer for the fence up front, but there's another one here that goes back this way. There's electric fence going here. There's no electric fence here, but there's one wire going across. So the animals can go back. We can close that off by finishing off and hooking up a couple wires if we don't want them to go that way. And then they still have all of this area through here. So they've got about 8.5 acres. And here's Toby. Toby, what are you doing, bud? What are you doing, eh? Oh boy, it's hot, eh? Now I just finished hooking this up. The animals, the chicken, the goats, they get waters. So why not have a water for your dogs? Oh, I thought you were going to show us how it works. Get a drink. Oh, almost. I think, did he understand me? That's kind of weird. Good boy. Oh, good boy. Nice fresh water. And it has a float valve in it. And it's hooked up to the garden hose. So now we just have to check in on it and make sure it doesn't have any kind of scum or anything on it. And just flush it out every once in a while. So that is about it for the this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. It is, as I said, it's not hot, but it is hot. It's 24 degrees, but the sun came out, and I don't know if it's beaming through that hole in the ozone layer or not, but it is warm. Anyway, thanks for showing up, and if you have any questions about goats, I'm sure I'll be doing more videos on goats, or dogs, by the way. I'll tell you about them too. Then we will see you next week And if you have any comments, as I mentioned, please put them down below. And we will see you then. Take care and have a wonderful week.